updating. The one that was previously released was designed to be a estimate tool for me, just to give me so I can keep track of everything. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts with all of this, but this is one that is all of the actuals. So we will start right here. The balance of 41 million. This first line, line number 5, the city spent $12,969,910.09 paying off the outstanding Clean Water Fund loans. So that brought the balance down to 28 million. In fiscal 24, we used $5 million of revenue for tax stabilization. That saved residents roughly 3.5 mils or $350 per $100,000 of assessed value. So that money went directly back to residents in the form of tax savings. In fiscal 25, the year that we are currently in, we used $7,429,365, which is the equivalent of 5.21 mils, which saved residents roughly $521 per $100,000 of assessed value. So over those 2 years, we saved residents $870 per $100,000 of assessed value. That's direct tax relief that goes back to offset taxes paid by the residents. So it's a savings directly back to them.
Got it.
And so
We then took,
if I could interrupt really briefly, Kurt, if the city did not follow that plan, what would the tax increase be for residents?
it would have been the equivalent of 3.5 mils in fiscal 24 and 5.21 mils in fiscal 25.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is serious money. Again, the mayor's goal is to try to keep taxes as low as possible. 1, to benefit, obviously, the residents, and 2, to try to attract as much economic development as possible into the city. The next one is line number 9, which is the rate stabilization fund. So $7 million was put aside to offset future increases in WPCA costs and to try to keep those as stable as possible.
Line 8 you skipped.
You skipped the solar
Oh, I
carport.
apologize. Solar carport. So we used $2,380,159 of tax money to, the WPCA sale funds to offset the cost of the solar carport. So we did not need to borrow any money. So we avoided paying principal and interest costs. This initial investment of $2,380,159 is going to be offset by a tax credit, an investment tax credit that we're going to receive through the federal government of $1,903,000.
Almost $2 million.
Correct. So it made good fiscal sense to use the cash that we had on hand to pay for it, have that money in turn replaced with this investment tax credit that's coming in, not pay any principal and interest costs, and allow us to immediately start to receive the income stream that comes from the solar carports unencumbered. So again, it's taking this one-time asset and turning it into a reoccurring revenue stream. So that's just a smart way to handle things.
So
number 9. Sorry, go ahead.
Is that like when you get solar panels, that's the rebate from the federal government that comes back
Correct.
to us?
Right.
Do we
Yes.
owe that though to the solar company, or we owe
No.
them nothing now?
We owe them nothing.
Okay,
Coming back directly to us.
thank you.
You're welcome. Again, the $7 million, as I started to explain that, that is to offset future increases in WPCA costs. We've talked about that a bunch of times. For fiscal 26, we're using $5,250,000. That's the projected use. Again, we won't know what we'll ultimately use in fiscal 26 until we get later on in the year. I would anticipate that it would be amount less than this, but that is a savings of 3.76 mills, or $376. So you can see we're north of $1,000 a year over the last 3 years, or excuse me, $1,000 total savings per $100,000 of assessed value over the last 3 years. So again, direct savings to residents.
Kurt, is projected revenue a common occurrence in accounting?
Yes,
It's used all the time.
yes. Because you're projecting what the revenue stream would be. And then notice there's different terms. There's projected and there's revenue. I know what the amount is in fiscal 24 and 25 because those numbers are finalized. I'm projecting what it could be in fiscal 26, just like our budget. Our budget has a lot of projections in it.
So this is like your best guess.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's understood that it's a normal accounting practice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, welcome. So we used $375,000 to do some capital infrastructure projects. We did some sidewalks, we did some drainage, we did some road work, some things like that. We just cleaned up a few small little issues that we had. So that brings the overall usage, or the projected usage, the anticipated usage, whatever word you want to use, leaving us with an amount of $595,565. You then need to add back in the $1.9 million that we'll be receiving in the anticipated investment tax credit for the carports.
Right.
We also need to add back in anticipated WPCA balance after closeout. So once the WPCA has been completely closed out, we finish up the audit process, everything else. The anticipation is that we'll have about $3.25 million. So that money comes back in, which leaves us with $6,123,565.91. That money, I would recommend that it's immediately moved to increase or add to our existing fund balance. The value of this projected fund balance increase is 8.98% of the fiscal 26 budget. That would sit on top of the roughly 6 million or so, give or take, that we currently have. So that would put our fund balance well over 10%, which is extremely strong for a distressed municipality. So again, the money was used, but the money was used to directly benefit residents, which I think is certainly a positive.
So we
So with
squandered it all, basically.
Well, I guess some people would say that it's squandered. I would say that it went directly back to benefit the residents, which is
Exactly.
what it's there to be used for. We still have a very strong, healthy fund balance, which we've actually improved our fund balance. I think what we've seen is that the WPCA rates have held true to form. There hasn't been a massive spike in costs.
Right.
Costs are as they have been. We have a rate stabilization fund that'll help keep those costs down over the long term. So I think a lot of good decisions were used for the direct benefit of the residents with these funds.
There's no doubt there's another way to go. There's an alternative, which is to not project ahead, not make these decisions. Obviously, you've been a part of all these projects, right? All these decisions to get where we are. You would have had an easier time by just raising the taxes, to 35, 40 mils, and then you would not have these problems. The residents would have the problems. Small businesses would have the problems, right? Our administration calls that a financial emergency. We know there are some critics that call our current situation with lower taxes an emergency. And it's really for the residents to decide which one they would rather live in.
Yeah, and if there's one other issue I can address because it's been kicking around, and I think people are going to say what they want, but I want to talk about the Standard & Poor's report because we were very, very upfront, very honest with what we were looking at doing. And if you go back and if you look at the audit prior to this one, the one back in 22, we started having conversations about the use of fund balance or one-time revenues and things to help keep the mill rate low. And at that time, we were affirmed at the AA minus, and our outlook was neutral. When we had these conversations, S&P had talked about how long this was a viable strategy. Again, we had open and honest conversations. When we came back for the last bond rating, 6-7 months ago, we continue to have those conversations. The most important thing that any bond rating comes with is the actual rating itself. Our rating did not change. And in the current environment that's in the state of Connecticut, financial ratings that stay the same or improve are considered very, very strong. What we've seen is a lot of communities have actually been downgraded with a lot of things that have been going on. People like to focus on the outlook of the what if. And if you look at the exact language that S&P says, it's the negative outlook reflects our view of the city's plan to use proceeds from a one-time asset sale to fund current operations through fiscal 23, which could lead to budgetary stress absent implementation of measures to reduce its reliance on fund balance. Could. It's not saying that it will. And because there is some concern with regards to the could word, that's why they put the negative outlook. If we continue to follow the plan that we have and the plan that we talk through S&P, where we step out of use of one-time revenues over the next 2 years, so for fiscal 29, there is no more use of one-time revenues. There will be absolutely no issue. And at that point, we'll be having conversations with S&P about a ratings upgrade, because at that point, our fund balance will be in the 12 to 13% range. And for a distressed municipality, that is extremely good. The other thing I want to I want you to keep in mind, in 2017, Ansonia was the #2 rated distressed municipality. For 2024, OPM has said Ansonia is the 18th rated municipality. What do you need to do to change your distressed rankings? It's by changing the overall economics of your overall community. So they look at things like housing costs. They look like median household income, so on and so forth. So when you are keeping taxes stable, you make your community more desirable for people to move into. When people start to move into that community, what you see is housing prices start to rise. As housing prices start to rise, people that are moving in to purchase those houses generally have higher median incomes. So by all the steps that have been taken over the last 10, 11, 12 years, they have all led us to this point of significant improvement. People can argue that you don't like the way that it was done. People can argue that I don't understand the way that it was done. But at the end of the day, all that matters are the results. And the results have been extremely positive. To go in just 6 years, 7 years, from #2 to #18 is quite significant. And that's something that every resident in this town, every member of these boards should be extremely proud of. I'm quite tired of the finances of this community being used as a political football, because we're turning Ansonia into the laughing stock of the state of Connecticut. And I'm going to say this officially on the record. I look forward and relish the opportunity to go to MFAC in September. Honest to God, I cannot wait, because what's going to happen at that meeting is we're going to do our presentation. The folks at MFAC are going to say, thank you very much for the presentation. We'll see you in 2 quarters. We're not 100% sure why you're even here. I've spent the last 2 days talking with folks up at OPM, preparing for when this meeting will take place. It's September 10th is when Ansonia will have its MFAC meeting. I encourage everyone to tune in. It's a Zoom meeting. It's done live. People are more than welcome to listen and hear what they say. The folks up at OPM are dumbfounded as to why Ansonia is being forced to go to MFAC. It's essentially an incredible amount of legislative overreach. But that's why I'm upset. I'm not upset that I have to go to MFAC. I'm upset at the way that it was done. If you look at the triggers for MFAC, it is extremely clear what OPM is looking for. There are different trigger levels, and the cities are ranked, and if they hit a certain number of triggers, then they qualify to go in. Ansonia has hit exactly one of those triggers, and the only trigger that it's hit, it's because the same thing has been on the audit for 2 consecutive years in a row, and that's that the audit was been late. So of the 8 criteria, we hit exactly 1. We are nowhere near a community that is in need of MFAC. Again, I have absolutely no problem going to MFAC. As I said, I spent a lot of time yesterday and a lot of time today speaking with those folks. We will go up there. We will provide all of the information. They already have our S&P reports. They have our audit reports. They have our budgets. They are completely comfortable with where we stand. But again, MFAC is a group. It's 8 members. It's 3 at large. And then it's 5 financial municipal representatives. I look at this as an opportunity to go and show them what we're doing in Ansonia, talk to them about why we're doing these things, have an open and honest exchange with other financial professionals. I expect that we're going to walk away with some good best practices that we can potentially use. It's essentially 8 other eyes that will be looking at the way we do things. I can assure you that we'll absolutely have no problem with the MFAC review that we'll be doing.